Well, it looks like EA has decided to do some spring cleaning, which is something that has been circulating around the web. And it's one of the biggest topics of the week in relation to the gaming industry. Electronic Arts have decided to cut roughly around 300 jobs. And that's something that probably doesn't surprise a lot of people, especially considering the trend of job cuts that we've been seeing since 2022. And the thing is, we have seen a lot of jobs. I'm talking about thousands of jobs get cut within the past couple of years. Back in 2023, over 10,500 jobs were lost. And I believe this past year, over 14,000 jobs were lost. And these job cuts took place across multiple gaming companies, including Sony, Epic Games, Take Two Interactive, Sega, Ubisoft, Embracer Group, United Technologies, Microsoft Gaming, and even EA. So EA has basically doubled down in terms of cutting staff. And honestly, I think it's something that's justified, especially considering how much money EA has lost within the past year or so. It was reported a couple of months ago that EA had lost around $6 billion in market value due to how bad Dragon Age Veilguard was and how EA Sports FC 25 underperformed. And the strange thing about that is EA Sports FC 25 ended up being one of the best selling games of 2024, and it's still underperformed. And I honestly feel like it's one of those things where EA, um, they got to start reviving some of their older IPs because it seemed like some of the stuff they've been putting out lately really doesn't click with a lot of people, or they just don't care about it altogether. And and I feel like the late one of their latest games that they had released back in 2024 was the Dragon Age game. It's a game that people have been waiting to see for about a decade because the Inquisition game came out back in 2014. That game ended up being a massive flop. It got a Metascore of 82 and a user score of 3.9. It was universally panned for the most part, and and I don't think we're going to be getting another Dragon Age game anytime in the near future. And and I do feel that things really aren't looking good for EA in relation to their future in relation to video games because it turns out that they cut a bunch of staff from the developer of Titanfall 2 and and I believe they even confirmed that Titanfall 3 had been canceled. And that's something that kind of confused a lot of people because it seemed like within the past couple of years, we've been hearing different reports about Titanfall 3 that was in development. And then, I don't know, development had been halted and that was in development again. And then all of a sudden, the project had been abandoned or dropped or what have you. But it's been confirmed that Titanfall 3 has been permanently canceled. And a lot of people are kind of upset about that news because a lot of people felt like the Titanfall series was one of the best things that EA had going for them outside of anything sports related. And I believe the last Titanfall game that we got, Titanfall 2, that did somewhere around the ballpark of 4 million units in terms of sales. And it was one of the more popular video games of the mid to late teens. But it seems like things have changed significantly since then. And what I mean by that is that the first person shooter genre is not nearly as popular as it once was, so I'm not exactly sure whether or not a Titanfall 3 game would have the same level of success as Titanfalls 1 and 2. And I don't know. I just feel like this news along with the job cuts and all that stuff, it makes me feel like EA has a very bleak future. Now, don't get me wrong, I feel like the future is bleak for the gaming industry in general, especially with these tariffs being set up and the cost of gaming constantly increasing, and all these layoffs happening and all this other stuff. But but it seems like for the most part, EA is following the same path that a lot of gaming companies are doing in relation to cutting back staff in order to focus more on efficiency and being cost effective and trying to maximize their profits and all that. And yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder what should they bring back that people would be interested in, because there are a couple of older IPs that people like that they own. Like you look at Battlefield. The last Battlefield game we got was in 2021. That was Battlefield 2042. I don't know. A lot of people really didn't like that game, but prior to that, I feel like Battlefield was more beloved and more popular during the teens decade. In fact, it used to compete with Call of Duty at one point. It doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. You look at the Burnout series. The Burnout series was pretty much like an arcade racer type of franchise. It got popular in the 2000s, and I believe the Burnout Paradise game from 2008 was the most popular installment that they had. We got the remastered version of the game back in 2018, but we haven't gotten an actual like new entry within the series, and I feel like that's something that EA should consider bringing back. Um, the last Mass Effect game we got was Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition from 2021, and I think we're supposed to be getting another Mass Effect game sometime in the future, but there's not too much I know about that at the moment. We'll just have to wait and see what happens there. Um, you also look at like Need for Speed. Need for Speed is not nearly as big as it once was during the 2000s. In fact, I feel like the 2000s is when the series had reached its pinnacle in terms of popularity, and it seems like they haven't been able to put out anything that surpassed the game that we got in 2005 in terms of overall mainstream success. And I don't know, and I feel like the latest Need for Speed game that we got just, I don't know, a lot of people really didn't care about it, and it kinda just, I don't know, it was popular for a minute, and then people stopped talking about it. I'm talking about Need for Speed Unbound from 2022, but then again, 2022 was such an underwhelming year for gaming in general, and I don't know, it doesn't seem to matter like what we get from EA in relation for Need for Speed. A lot of people feel like the racing genre is past its prime in terms of popularity, and when it comes to racers, people look more at the Forza series in general, and you look at other video game franchises that they got. Like honestly, like FIFA pretty much died, not too long ago because I believe like I don't know. We lost FIFA because for some reason, I guess like the contract had ran up or something like that, and and it got to a point where they had to start changing the name of the soccer games, and I don't know, people really loved FIFA, and I just feel like FIFA being gone is something that that people were really pissed off about for the most part. Um, the last FIFA game I believe was in 2022. It was FIFA 23, and I feel like it's something that definitely had a negative impact on EA in general, and yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder like what the future of the company looks like at this point. I do feel like there's definitely older IPs that they can bring back or they can revive or what have you, but I'm not exactly sure if they're going to take that step because I feel like they would have done so by now, and they haven't. I mean, like you look at like games like Dead Space. The last Dead Space game we got was Dead Space 3, and that came out in 2013, and the first game came out back in 2008. And we've been waiting for a sequel to that game for a very long time. And I don't know. At this point, I don't think Dead Space 4 is ever going to happen, or at least not anytime soon. And I feel like we should have gotten a sequel to Dead Space 3 like way sooner. But I don't know. I feel like by the time they bring that back, people are really not going to care anymore. And it's probably going to be something ridiculous where you buy the game and then you got to buy DLC to get all this extra crap that should be on the original disc or whatever. But I digress. But I don't know. I just have no idea what the future of EA is going to look like. But I do feel like it's a huge bummer that we're not going to get Titanfall 3 at all.